Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello. So today I want reading about everyday life in the Soviet Union, the shopping run around. Everyday life in the Soviet Union, the shopping run around. I had heard about consumer shortage before going to Moscow, but only when we began to shop did Russian consumer problems really have meaning for me. Customers they were overweight in lines, but Soviet lines have a special quality all their own. Typically, the Soviet woman spends 2 hours a day in line, 7 days a week. Personally, I have known of people who stood in line 90 minutes to buy four pineapples and half past 3 hours to buy three large heads of cabbage, only to find the cabbage were gone as they approached the front of the line. Lines can run from a few yards to nearly a mile. Some friends of our watched a line of people in Moscow signing up to buy rocks. The line lasts 2 days and nights and ran for across Altok, an apartment development. In spite of all of this, the natural reaction of a Russian woman when she sees a line forming is to get in it immediately, even before she knows what is being sold. However, Soviet lines are more fluid than they appear. In most stores, for example, shoppers must stand in not one but three lines for any purchase. The first, to select a purchase and find out its price. The second, to pay a cashier somewhere else in the store and get a receipt. And the third, to go pick up the purchase and turn in the receipt. But in a dairy store one morning, I found out that the game is both simpler and more complex than that. I wanted to buy some cheese, butter, and bologna sausage, which were in three separate departments, each with its own line. 9 lines! Rather quickly, took I noticed that experienced shoppers were skipping the first stage. They knew what most item cost, so they went directly to the cashier for their receipt. After studying price, I did that too. Then I went to the cheese line, the longest, probably 20 people to get the worst over with first. I was in line less than a minute when the woman in front of me asked me to hold her place. She darted off to the butter and milk line. The cheese line was moving so slowly that she got her butter and milk and returned before we had advanced 3 feet. I decided to take the risk too, and I got back with my butter while the cheese line was still inching along. Then it suddenly occurred to me that all over the store people were getting into line, holding place, leaving, returning. Everyone was using the cheese line as home base. That was why it was barely moving. It kept expanding in the middle. So I got the man behind me to hold my place, and I went off to buy my bologna. Once again, it worked. It took me 22 minutes to buy butter, sausage, and cheese. But instead of being furious, I felt as if I had beaten the system. This competitive shopping gives an atmosphere of tension to Russian life. People barge into stores and bump into each other with face set in combative experience. You have to understand, said a kind, gray-haired person, that for as long as we can remember, shopping has been a struggle. Life is a struggle. There is hardly any effective advertising to help shoppers. Americans complain about the constant commercials in the United States, but they might reconsider if they were exposed to the consumer blackout in Russia. A typical Soviet ad might be, if you want to live to a ripe old age and be beautiful, modest, true, and truthful, drink tea. Most newspapers publish without ads. The shoppers has no handy yellow page or daily newspaper, supermarket, or department store ads to help her decide where to shop. Bribery is widespread. Low bids $18,000 to $20 monthly. Sales clerks take a portion of attractive items and sell them secretly to regular customers who have either left a bribe in advance or can be counted on to pay a high price on delivery. 10 to 15 rubles on a 90 ruble raincoat is standard. In 1976, the rubles were equivalent to $1.32. What? Okay, so come on, is this practice that the Soviet press is always complaining about it? But it doesn't do any good. Crocodile? The Soviet humor magazine once showed a department store employee promoting some newly arrived items. Dear customer, in the leather goods department, 5,000 imported women's purses have been received. 450 of them have been booked by store employees. 49 are under the counter and have been ordered in advance for friends. One purse is in the display window. We invite you to visit the litter department to buy this purse. I think that's all for me. Thank you for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.